Is Apple Notes the greatest notes app of all time? Obsidian had the graph view that pulled me in, which a lot of people think now is just a meme. There's always people saying, Notion's become really bloated, it's kind of gotten slow. This could be the year of AI for Apple. The biggest downside to me personally for Apple Notes right now is... Welcome back to Press Pause. I'm Bill. This is Season 3, Episode 3 of the show. And I've been thinking lately, is Apple Notes the greatest notes app of all time? There was a time when I had used it pretty extensively and then made the decision to leave because of its lack of features. This was back around the 2020-ish time frame when I read Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. And at the time, Obsidian and Note linking kind of caught my eye. Obsidian had the graph view that pulled me in, which a lot of people think now is just a meme, that the graph view isn't all that useful, and I really didn't use it all that much either when I did, but I didn't care much about owning my own data at that point, so like the markdown files on my computer thing definitely wasn't the biggest driver of me switching, but we'll talk a little bit of more about that later in this episode. So I used Obsidian for quite a while, actually. I don't remember exactly how long, but I have like 700 or 800 notes in there. And more recently, I've used it to back up my Apple Notes. But when Apple Notes then added note linking, that got me thinking, like, well, why am I just not using the first-party app that's on all of my devices? Why am I using this third-party solution that was a little bit slow syncing with iCloud? And I had a lot of time spent just kind of manipulating Obsidian with data view and all of the plugins to try to get it to work the way that I wanted it to work. Around that same time, I started to find the Forever Notes framework then came out kind of after I had migrated back to Apple Notes when note linking was big, and that actually helped a lot. I was kind of like, oh, so like Apple Notes can have all the same stuff that Obsidian has, sort of. It's not exactly the same, but you effectively, you have hubs, you have maps of content, you have linked notes that are a lot easier now inside of Apple Notes, but it's still not overly visual. So, you kind of just go in there, you have folders, you have a list of notes, or you can see them in a card view, which is my preferred method at this point. But the Forever Notes system really tried to help fix that whole, you're not just saving information for the sake of saving it. You're trying to link your thoughts together, like make connections and use the notes that you're saving to like actually help you to learn things, to make those connections for items that you're saving that you might not have seen otherwise, which is kind of like where the Obsidian graph view comes in. You spend some time to browse the graph view, things are only linked together that you manually linked in there, but you might find notes that aren't linked to anything and be like, oh, there's a connection between this Apple Notes video that I did over here and this Obsidian video that I want to do. So kind of the big overarching themes with that stuff, if that's something that's important to you, if you want to understand why you're thinking what you're thinking, or I would have loved Obsidian in college in order to link together all of the different concepts within engineering. I think that would have helped me a lot. I had mentioned many times I had no idea really how to learn or how to take notes or any of that stuff. Personal knowledge management was lost on me at that point. But since then, I've been using Apple Notes for about 3 years solidly. Like since I started YouTube, June 2023. And there have been some big implementations in the PKM Notes app space during that time, namely around AI. So I'm really hoping that Apple can nail the new Gemini integration with Apple Notes, that it can have some of this context. You can point it in specific places. That's the biggest downside to me personally for Apple Notes right now, is if I want AI help with writing or fleshing out an idea or whatever it is, I'm copying and pasting the data into a different application, whereas Notion AI just has all of that context built in. It has a I call it a mega prompt, well, if I'm asking you to help with titles and thumbnails, this is the framework that I want you to follow. If I'm asking you about scripting, here's examples of scripts that I've done in the past. So I think that if Apple does things right with AI, it could be huge for people that are using Apple Notes like me that I don't really have any desire to go to a paid application. So we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. And I've finally started using some of the shared features of Apple Notes, so shared notes with other people. That'll be for this podcast when I bring on guests on the next episode. So get subscribed, tune in for that. You're not going to want to miss it. And I haven't used a lot of the shared features in Apple Notes before, so I'll be taking some notes on that, what I like, what I don't like, compared to other systems like Craft or Notion that I have used for shared documents in the past. So along the AI lines, right, I don't need AI to help me do thinking. I do want it to help remind me of ideas that I've come up with and that maybe I've forgotten about, things that have stagnated in my notes apps. But then with Apple Notes specifically, help me make some of those connections. If it can help me identify things that I start working on a piece and it's like, hey, you already wrote about this, right? Like, or here's something from your Readwise. You saved a highlight from a podcast that fits great with what you're trying to talk about. I think that sort of personal assistant level context is what I'm looking for in AI. I'm definitely not looking for it to be, hey, make me a YouTube video and then read that script word for word. It's not useful for me particularly. I want to be continuing to share my personal experiences and things that I've learned along the way, apps that I'm using along the way. So like trying to replace myself with AI isn't super interesting, but I've mentioned Notion AI. It's really good, actually, full of the context of your workspace. But, the downside of Notion is obviously that it's a paid tool. It's an online app. It's not end-to-end encrypted. And, I don't think that Apple is at risk of going out of business in the next 20 years. But, I guess anything could happen. But, Notion's now starting to be a big kind of VC funded effort focused mainly on enterprise. So they're not necessarily saying that they're leaving behind the, solo user or small business operator, but you can definitely tell by the tools that they're adding that the bigger the team, the more benefit some of these tools are, like AI meeting notes and the different agents that you can set up now. And, that's the downside kind of a paid application is these companies have to constantly make new features, update new stuff, add new things to try to bring more customers in. And in Notion's case, when most of your revenue is coming from an enterprise service, you're going to add a bunch of enterprise features to the application. And you can see on Reddit, there's always people saying, Notion's become really bloated. It's kind of gotten slow, although they've worked on the speed in recent weeks. It's, to me, doesn't seem like something that, if you're just taking notes by yourself, is probably the smartest tool at this point, unless you really need the AI integration. And I've been on a free versus paid app kick recently. I'm like kind of tired of paying for a bunch of subscriptions, which says a lot because I've always been willing to shell out money since I think the first iPhone I had was the 6S Plus. And even as far back as that phone, I would pay for apps that I was using. Most of them are one-time payments at that point, but at that time, shelling out $2, $3, $4, $5 for an application on the App Store was like a big deal. Everybody on the Android side was like, "Well, these apps are free. I don't want to pay for apps." Right? I never had any problem supporting the developers, and boy, it adds up. I added up all my costs. And we'll cover that a little bit more detail in my guest episode next week. But I was kind of shocked by the number. And, it's not just Notion. We don't really own anything anymore. I feel like I'm going to be stuck paying Apple $50 a month for the rest of my life. Or, I use fitness and news, and we have the Apple One premium plan, and we use all of the stuff, but including iCloud storage, it's just another monthly occurrence, another monthly recurring cost that has me thinking, should I be really tying my data to paid applications that, if we follow the Evernote path, right? Eventually these could lead to the companies making decisions that aren't favorable for the user. And plenty of people kind of got locked into Evernote, have been using it for 10 years. It's still ridiculously expensive. They did a big update recently, and I was kind of like, oh, Evernote's still around. Like, people are really still paying this price for Evernote. And, I guess if you had plenty of people have 10,000, 15,000 notes on Evernote at this point because they've been using it for well over a decade, maybe longer. And I've been thinking about like the possibility of ownership and owning your own data. I don't really know if this is important at all, or if it really is even possible today, or if it's just the illusion of ownership. But I've been listening to a lot of Obsidian content, watching videos, and following Capano on social media. And the one thing that Obsidian does really well is gives you access to all of your files. So if you want to run it on your local computer hard drive, it's just a bunch of markdown files. And if you want to self-host it on your own server or sync via iCloud like I have done, it's kind of maybe a little bit more risky. You could argue that maybe I don't have full ownership of the files, then I can still, obviously back them up or keep them downloaded. But at the end of the day, Markdown is a 22-year-old thing. I had to go Google it because I really didn't even know when Markdown was released. But at its core, it's just a plain text file. So, a computer from 22 years ago or even earlier can read plain text files. So it stands to reason that if you want your notes to be able to be read 20 years into the future, then Markdown is probably a good option. I already mentioned, I think it's unlikely that Apple would be out of business in 20 years, but, they could very well decide that, hey, we've kind of seen it, right? This Creator Studio that they released for one-time paid applications, Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro, these things aren't making us a lot of money. They're stagnated in the marketplace. They weren't getting any updates because there isn't a revenue KPI that Apple could tie to show some benefit to working on these things. So they launched the Creator Studio subscription. I've sort of been vocal for yes, I would actually pay for Apple Notes if you developed it and added some of the features. But at the same time, it has me thinking, is that really necessary? Do I actually need that? And there are Notes applications, Bear is probably a great example. It's really cheap, $30 a year for the Bear Notes app. But, at the end of the day, you're still paying money to access your data. And there's some convenience with that in that it syncs across all of your devices. Bear Notes has a ton of features, better shortcut support than Apple Notes. But, it just seems like we've lost all ability to go access our stuff without interfacing with big tech in some way. And you could say, well, Bill, you're spewing all this love for Apple Notes, but you have to buy Apple devices and you have to be in the Apple ecosystem to use it. And that's true. So, that's a valid point. So while I think it's unlikely that Apple would do something, as drastic as cutting off support for Apple Notes and replacing it with a subscription, they kind of just did that with Pages and Numbers and Keynote, which is arguably long overdue. Microsoft's not giving away Excel, Word, and PowerPoint with all of their computers, nor have they for many, many years. It's always been something that you have to buy and has been a subscription for, I don't know when Microsoft 365 came out, but too long and too expensive, of course, for that stuff. But at least these base applications still are going to be free. and still come on all of your devices. I'm being cautiously optimistic here that they're not going to, remove any features from them or change them in any way, that the functionality that you have today should still work. And then if you wanted the additional features, you could get on the Creative Studio subscription, which as of right now is actually pretty reasonably priced when you compare to like Microsoft Office. It's kind of like a mashup, which is weird, of Office and like the Adobe Creative Cloud suite. But I'm doing the free trial of the Creator Studio right now for the next 3 months. I'm still a little undecided on whether I'm going to keep it or wait and see what kind of interesting things they add to Final Cut Pro in that. So there's my Notes app rant for this week. We've got a few things of Apple news to cover. Apple had their second biggest acquisition the other day. They bought an AI startup called QAI that has a bunch of technology behind basically audio content. They spent $2 billion on this. So for context, when they bought Beats, that was a $3 billion acquisition. And I guess it just goes to show you that Apple is getting serious about AI. Along the AI news front, there's been a couple different articles that have come out about the Gemini integration and how there is a more context-aware, personalized version of Siri coming in a dot update this year. It should be 26.4. And then there's a rumor that you're going to get like a full-on chatbot, like a Gemini or a ChatGPT in iOS 27 later this year when the new iPhone launches. So I did the betas last year. I think I might do that again this year. It was kind of cool, but this should be an upgrade year for me. So I might be going from the 16 Pro to the 18 Pro when that releases in the fall. We'll see, hold out for features and the design and all of that stuff. But this could be the year of AI for Apple. And in that, Mark Gurman was on TBPN the other day talking about this Gemini deal. Google confirmed that it's a multi-year deal and it's not exclusive, so Apple can still work with other companies regarding AI. And there was a rumor that Apple was trying to partner with Anthropic, and Anthropic wanted too much money. So they basically said, well, screw you guys, we'll go to Google, which I think is really interesting because I've been a big fan of Claude. I liked its output. I think while a lot of these AI players, CEOs are kind of strange. I mean, we're all strange in our own way, but Anthropic's sort of mission and values aligned better with something that I would use than like OpenAI and the drama surrounding that company. But they apparently had the chance to unseat Google here and fumbled the ball. So I'll be interested to see, because at some point these AI companies, the money's going to quit rolling in like hotcakes and they're going to have to figure out how to become profitable. And I'm wondering if we just witnessed the downfall of Anthropic in this partnership or lack thereof with Apple. If you haven't already, get subscribed to the channel and follow along. I post Apple tech videos and cover all of my escapades in productivity systems on the YouTube channel and host this podcast there as well. If you're on Spotify, you can leave comments and feedback, and I'd love to have my first 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Thanks for watching and listening. I appreciate you all, and until next time, later.